Hi, both. Thanks for joining us today on our Business Gurus channel, where we will be discussing key business topics to help students grasp the most important elements of their course in preparation for their exams and future career. Let's get started.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're opening the hood on business operations,
Mhm.
and then specifically we're digging into the mechanics of how products actually get made.
Okay.
Because, if you're running a business, your production method really defines your strategy, your pricing, even how your employees feel, maybe.
Absolutely. And our sources, they're quite clear on this, aren't they? The whole reason different methods exist is because products have to evolve. They need to change to meet customer needs and wants.
That's the core
Yeah,
idea.
that's the starting point.
Yeah.
And the way the material lays it out, there are basically three main production processes a business can choose from.
Joe, batch, and flow. I remember those.
Exactly. Think of it like a scale.
Mm.
On one end, you've got total customization, really bespoke stuff.
That's job production.
That's it. And on the other end, you have, complete mass production, everything the same, flow.
Okay. And today, we're planting our flag firmly at the high customization end.
Yes.
This deep dive is all about getting under the skin of Joe production.
That's the plan. So for you listening, our mission is to sort of cut past the textbook definition.
Right.
We want to explore what it actually means, economically, logistically. This whole unique one-off method. We'll look at the upsides, the value, some maybe surprising internal benefits too,
And the downsides.
and definitely the downsides. The sources are pretty blunt about the costs involved.
Okay, let's get started then. The definition. If I need a clear, concise way to explain job production, what is it? And maybe what's the immediate sign that a company's using it?
Okay, definition first. It all comes down to uniqueness. Job production is fundamentally one-off production for a one-off order.
One off for one off.
Simple, pretty much. Every single thing produced is tailor-made to the specific requirements of a single customer.
Got it. And the red flag, the immediate sign.
That's usually the input ratio, what goes in versus what comes out.
Okay, explain that a bit more.
Well, think about flow production, mass production. You see loads of machinery, automation, maybe lower skilled labor, churning out identical items.
Right, like a car factory line.
Exactly. Job production. It completely flips that. It needs a high amount of labor rather than machinery.
Ah, okay. So it's people heavy.
Very much so. The core asset is human skill, human time. Often, the client and the maker, the artisan, they work together quite closely through the whole process.
That changes the whole risk profile, doesn't it? You're relying on skilled people being available and, well, good at what they do, not just keeping machines running.
Precisely.
So to really nail that definition down with an example,
Yeah.
we're talking about something where the item basically wouldn't exist without that specific customer asking for it.
Yeah, the classic example our sources use is a tailor-made item, like a suit maybe,
Okay.
but you can think broader. Designing custom software just for one company, building a super specific yacht, or maybe like crafting a unique blush shelf for a really awkward corner in an old house.
Right, stuff you absolutely cannot just buy off the shelf. It's the polar opposite of standard stock.
Exactly, the antithesis of standard inventory.
Okay, now this is where it gets interesting for me. Given how, frankly, expensive and maybe slow that sounds, why would any business actually choose this method? Let's get into the advantages. The sources mention benefits for both the customer and the workers, right?
That's right. The main advantage, the one facing the customer, is the sheer value created. The product is, by definition, bespoke, unique, one-off.
You're not just selling a thing.
No, you're selling a unique solution, a fix for a very specific problem that only that customer has.
And because it's unique, that automatically pulls the company out of direct price competition, doesn't it? If you need that kitchen designed for your weirdly angled 18th century wall,
Yeah, the source example of a high-end custom kitchen is perfect here.
you can't just go to IKEA for that.
Exactly. And because it's irreplaceable, the business gets huge pricing power. The research points this out clearly. Higher prices can be charged to the customers.
Right.
The perceived value is massive. Customers pay for that tailored expertise, the specific materials, the whole service, really. It's a high-margin game serving those niche customers.
Okay, that makes total sense on the money side. High margins hopefully cover the high costs. But the other side of this, the bit I found really compelling in the notes, is how it affects the actual team, the people making the product. We usually talk production in terms of speed, efficiency. But here, the advantage seems almost human. Worker morale.
It's a really vital point, and maybe one that gets missed sometimes. Think about mass production lines. Worker alienation can be a real issue, right? People just do one small task over and over.
Yeah, you don't see the whole picture.
Exactly. But what's fascinating with Joe production, according to the sources, is the workers are often very motivated.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason given is because they can see one item made from start to finish.
They're craftsmen, not just
Yeah.
cogs in a machine.
Precisely. That sense of ownership, being able to look at a finished piece and say, I made that.
That must feel completely different. Huge for job satisfaction compared to just tightening the same bolt all day long.
It really seems to be. And look, this isn't just about warm, fuzzy feelings. This motivation, it connects directly to business results.
Now so.
The data suggests that motivated workers are normally more productive and have lower rates of absenteeism, fewer sick days, basically.
Okay, that's a tangible benefit.
And more than that, high morale usually means people stick around longer. Better employee retention, which is critical in this model because replacing a highly skilled craftsperson, that's incredibly hard and very expensive.
That's a great point. Reducing turnover, especially for those really skilled folks, cuts down recruitment costs, training costs. That's a huge, maybe hidden financial plus from keeping people happy.
It really is.
But let me push back on that just a little. If every job is unique, bespoke, the timeline is set by this one customer's weird demands, doesn't that create a kind of scheduling nightmare? Potential stress from the lack of routine.
That's a fair challenge. And yes, the nature of bespoke work is less predictable than banging out widgets. But the sources seem to imply that the people who thrive in this setup, the craftsmen, they're often professionals who actually like that challenge. They enjoy the problem-solving aspect, maybe more than rigid structure.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that we see high performance, low absenteeism suggests that for the right kind of person, the autonomy and the challenge outweigh the lack of predictability.
So it's not just any worker, it takes a specific type. Highly skilled, self-directed.
Exactly. It's an operations model that really relies on finding and keeping those specific kinds of employees.
Okay, so we've got the upsides clear. Uniqueness creating market power, premium pricing, and these highly motivated, productive workers. Now we have to look at the other side of the coin.
The trade-offs.
Right, because all this customization, it must come with some serious costs and complexity. Let's unpack the disadvantages. They seem like the mirror image of the good stuff, really.
They are, pretty much. If you look at the big picture, the main drawbacks circle back to, well, people and tools, human capital and infrastructure flexibility.
Yep.
The first huge disadvantage is just the sheer cost of skill. Job production needs specialized people. And finding real experts, that market's tough. Skilled labor and craftsmen are expensive, period.
Non-negotiable expense, really. You can't just automate that master carpenter or the lead engineer away.
Nope.
You're paying for years, maybe decades, of skill that's hard to replace, and you're kind of stuck with whatever the going rate is for that skill.
Exactly right. And relying on just a few highly paid individuals, that's a big operational risk too.
How so?
Well, what if your key person leaves? The whole project might just grind to a halt because all that knowledge, that specific expertise, just walked out the door.
Ouch.
So the business has to pay enough to try and stop that from happening, which, again, bumps up the price the customer has to pay.
Makes sense. High skill costs money, and losing it costs even more. Okay, so that's labor. What about the actual place where the work happens? The physical stuff needed for all these different custom orders. The notes mention tools. Sounds like a logistical headache.
Oh, it can be. It's a big, maybe less obvious disadvantage because the product is always different, right?
Yeah.
So the tools and machines can't be hyper-specialized for just one single task, like in a factory.
Right.
You need flexibility. You need versatility, which means, as the source says, a wide range of tools may be required.
Okay, a wide range. What does that mean in practice, logistically?
Well, it hits you in a few ways. First, just space. You need a lot of room, not just for the item being built, but to store and organize this huge collection of specialized tools, jigs, materials, stuff you might only pull out once or twice a year.
Right, unlike a flow line where everything's set up for one thing.
Exactly. Second, maintenance.
Yeah.
Looking after dozens of different specialized tools is way more complex and probably more expensive than maintaining one big dedicated machine.
More things to break down.
Potentially, yeah. And third, think about buying materials. You can't just order massive bulk quantities like a factory would. You have to source specialized bits and pieces in small amounts for each individual job.
Which drives up the cost of raw materials, too. No economies of scale there.
None at all.
Okay, so pulling this all together, what does it mean for a business owner thinking about this path? It sounds like making job production work means operating on a kind of knife edge.
How do you gain?
You have to be really good at charging those premium prices. High enough to swallow the huge, maybe unpredictable costs of that super skilled labor, all the complicated logistics, the wide range of tools. Is that about right?
That's a really good synthesis,
Wow.
actually. Yeah.
Ah.
Job production is like the absolute peak of customization.
Yeah.
You give up scale totally to get that bespoke uniqueness.
Right.
You lean heavily on expensive human skill, which pays off in motivated workers and the ability to charge high prices.
Yeah.
But it absolutely demands that the company is brilliant at juggling complex logistics, managing those specialized resources, and somehow minimizing the huge risk that comes with depending on a small number of very valuable, very expensive people.
It's a fascinating deep dive. Definitely high risk, high reward.
Hmm.
So for you listening, we started off mentioning those three methods: job, batch, and flow.
Mm.
Now that you've heard about the intense demands job production puts on people, skills, and flexibility, here's something to chew on. How does a business figure out that exact point? The point where the need for customization for their products stops being worth the cost and complexity? And the financial pull towards the savings and predictability of a more standardized process like batch or flow takes over.
That's the million-dollar question.
It really is. Making that calculation right, that's core operations strategy.
Right.
And it pretty much decides if the company sinks or swims.
Thanks to both of you for joining us today. You've been listening to the Business Gurus. Let's now hand it over to you. What further questions do you have based on what we've discussed so far? Leave a comment and we'll get back to you right away. If you haven't already, hit that follow for more business tips.